need to tell you something, and it might hurt a little, but it's a pain that sets you free. Not all the suffering that crosses your path was put in your hands to be carried. And I'm saying this looking directly at you because I know who you are. You are that person who feels too much, who notices what no one else does, who hears even what hasn't been said. And that's a gift, but it can also be a prison if you don't know how to use it. I feel, and spirituality shows me very clearly that there's a strong energy of emotional exhaustion in those who are watching me right now. It's not a physical exhaustion, it's an exhaustion of the soul. It's that weight you can't explain, but it follows you, even when everything seems to be fine and you know where it comes from. From carrying what isn't yours, from trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved yet, from absorbing doubts and pains that were never born inside you. And today I was spiritually called to open this up here with you. Because there are people getting sick in silence, thinking this is love, but it's not. This is excess, and excess throws things off balance. Today, I'm going to teach you something that few people talk about: the difference between loving, embracing, and losing yourself inside someone else's pain. Because there is a line, and that line is invisible, but when you cross it, you start to fade away. I'm going to show you why you feel exhausted, even when you're helping people. How to stop absorbing other people's emotional energy, and most importantly, how to protect your peace without feeling guilty. And pay attention to what I'm going to tell you now. This can change the way you relate to everyone. I see a lot of good people, but they're extremely tired, and the mistake is always the same: confusing love with absorption. The person listens too much, gets too involved, gives too much of themselves, and when they realize it, they're already emotionally soaked by pains that aren't even theirs. And she wants to help, she wants to ease the pain, she wants to protect, but she forgets something fundamental. Comforting someone doesn't mean getting sick along with them. I'm going to tell you something serious right now. There are people who are becoming emotionally ill, trying to be a shelter for everyone. And that's not spiritual, that's imbalance, because even spirituality has its limits. Even light needs its own protection. It doesn't start all at once, it starts quietly. You listen to someone, you get involved and you think about it, then you try to solve it. You feel guilty for not being able to do it, and before you know it, you've taken the problem inside yourself. You went to bed with it, you woke up with it, and it starts to live inside you as if it were yours. But it's not, it never was, and even so you keep carrying it, and you know what happens. You start losing your lightness, you start losing your clarity, you start losing your peace, and the worst part is, you don't even notice the exact moment when it all began. If you've ever felt this way, write here in the comments, "I feel too much." I want to see how many people are living through this in silence. And if you want to learn how to protect yourself without stopping being who you are, stay with me until the end. There's something that spirituality always shows me. There are people who take on storms that aren't theirs. They listen to someone else's despair and take it home with them. They try to organize chaos they never created. They feel responsible for something that doesn't depend on them. And this starts creating an invisible prison because you begin to live according to problems that didn't originate within you. And this is extremely dangerous because little by little, you stop living your own life to try to support someone else's. And let me tell you something very honestly now. You were not called to carry the world. Not everything that hurts someone else needs you to comfort them until the end. Some pains ask for presence, others ask for silence, and some ask for distance, and that is not a lack of love. That is wisdom, because when you try to solve everything, you lose yourself, and when you try to save everyone, you drown. And many times, the person doesn't even want to get out of the problem, but you throw yourself into it. I need you to remember this. Not everything that comes to you is for you to carry. Some things just pass by you so you can learn to observe, not absorb. And in the next part, I'm going to show you something even deeper, how to tell the difference between true empathy and self-abandonment. And why are so many spiritual people energetically drained? Because something is happening. And if you don't understand this, it's going to keep draining your energy every day. You're not tired for no reason. You're carrying too much energy that wasn't born in you, and spirituality shows me this very clearly. There are people here who aren't just living their own lives, they're living pieces of several people's lives at the same time, and that's heavy, really heavy. There's a very fine line between empathy and self-abandonment, and most people don't realize when they cross that line. Because it starts out beautifully. You want to help, you want to understand, you want to be present, but little by little, you start putting yourself second. You start ignoring how you feel to support the other person. You start staying quiet so you don't bother anyone. You start wearing yourself out to keep someone else standing, and when you realize it, you've disappeared from yourself. That's not empathy, that's self-abandonment, and self-abandonment destroys you from the inside out. If you've ever put yourself last because of someone else, right here, I put myself aside. I want you to acknowledge that, because recognizing it is already the first step to breaking out of this cycle. Being sensitive isn't a problem, but not having a filter is. It's because when you feel everything without limits, you become an open field, and any energy comes in, any pain comes in, any conflict comes in, and you start carrying things that aren't even part of your story. You start feeling sadness for no reason, anxiety without explanation, tiredness even without effort. And that confuses you because you think, but my life isn't even that bad, and it really isn't. It's just that not everything you're feeling is actually yours. There are people who unload on others unconsciously. They come close to you, vent, cry, talk about their lives, and leave feeling relieved. And you end up feeling heavy, feeling weird, feeling drained because you absorbed it. And this happens especially with sensitive, open, spiritual people, and I see this all the time. Good people, but completely exhausted because they haven't learned how to filter. Helping is beautiful, but when it becomes an obligation, it becomes a burden. There are people who feel they need to be available all the time, who need to solve things, who need to give advice, who need to provide emotional support. And this creates a prison because you start living to take care of other people's emotions, and if you can't do it, you feel guilty. But let me set you free from something. Right now, you are not responsible for anyone else's healing. You can help, but you can't live in someone else's place. Look at this cycle and see if you recognize yourself in it. You help, the person gets better, you feel useful, the person comes back with the problem, you help again and again and again. Until one day you're empty, with no energy, no motivation, no patience, and even then, you keep helping because you got used to being the support. But who is being the support for you? If you feel like you're always strong for others, but there's no one to be strong for you, come on. I'm tired of being strong. There are people who don't want to change. They just want to vent, want attention, want support, but they don't want to get out of the problem. And you keep trying to pull, keep trying to reject, keep trying to save, but the person doesn't move. And then you wear yourself out over something that never depended on you. And this is very serious because you start to drown in the sea of someone who didn't even try to swim. I need to tell you this very clearly. God didn't make you sensitive so you could become a deposit of pain. He gave you sensitivity to recognize, to love, to pray, to reach out your hand. But not to lose yourself, never to lose yourself. Because when you lose yourself, you stop fulfilling what is truly yours. If you feel that you are very emotionally overwhelmed, maybe you need deeper spiritual guidance, something more individual, more specific to your energy. Down here, there are ways for you to seek that, but only if it makes sense to you. Keep that in mind. You can be a light without burning yourself out. You can help without destroying yourself. You can love without abandoning yourself. And in the next part, I'm going to teach you something essential: how to set boundaries without feeling guilty. And why saying this isn't mine is important. It's a powerful spiritual act because the problem isn't feeling, it's not knowing how far to go. Now I want you to pay close attention to what I'm going to teach you, because this isn't just reflection, this is spiritual practice, and it can completely change the way you live from today on. There is a simple but extremely powerful phrase, and very few people have the courage to use it. It's not mine, and I know just from you hearing this, you might already feel some discomfort because you were taught to always be available, to always help, to always welcome others. But let me tell you something honestly. Not everything that comes to you is your responsibility. Not everything someone feels needs to be solved by you. Not everything that hurts someone else needs to become a burden inside you. And when you learn to say this isn't mine, you're not rejecting the person, you're respecting your own boundaries. A lot of people confuse boundaries with coldness, but it's not coldness, it's maturity. It's about understanding how far you can go without losing yourself, because when you don't have boundaries, you invade yourself and allow others to invade you too. And that creates an imbalance because you start giving more than you can handle, more than you should. And that takes a toll, it always does. When you don't set boundaries, you become an open field and everything comes in. Problems come in, drama comes in, emotional baggage comes in, and you start accumulating it all without even noticing. Until one day you explode or break down or simply shut down inside. And no one understands because you are always strong, but strength without protection turns into exhaustion. Pay attention to this. Helping is being present. Giving yourself up is losing yourself. Helping is listening. Giving yourself up is absorbing. Helping is guiding. Giving yourself up is carrying. And when you mix these things, you enter a cycle of silent suffering because you start living what was never yours. If you feel like you've already crossed that line, comment, "I need to protect myself." That's already a start. Now I'm going to touch on a very deep point. Guilt. Many people keep overburdening themselves because they feel guilty for stepping away, guilty for not responding, guilty for not solving things, guilty for not being available. But this guilt wasn't born in you, it was built. You learn that being good means always being there, but that's not what being good is. It's also knowing how far you can go, because when you go beyond that, you start to hurt yourself. There's another very strong point, fear. If I don't help, who will help? If I walk away, the person will get worse. If I'm not there, something might happen. And that holds you back because you start to feel responsible for the other person's emotional life. But let me bring you a liberating truth. Each person needs to take responsibility for their own process. You can support them, but you can't live for them. I'm going to teach you something now that you can start applying today. When someone comes to you with a heavy burden, you don't have to absorb it. You can listen with presence, but inside yourself you say, I respect you, but this isn't mine. And that changes everything, because you remain light, but you don't become a dumping ground. You remain supportive, but you don't become the one holding everything up. You remain loving, but without abandoning yourself. From the moment you understand this, your energy changes, you stop exhausting yourself, you stop carrying unnecessary weight, you start living with more lightness, and most interestingly, people start respecting you more. Because you stopped being a place where everything is dumped and became someone who is aware. If you feel that you need to learn how to protect yourself energetically, there are deeper ways to work on this, with guidance, with direction, with emotional cleansing. Down here you'll find ways to do that, but only if you feel like it. Keep this with you. Saying this is not mine doesn't distance you from love. It brings you closer to yourself. I'm going to show you something even deeper. Because some people come close just to unload on you. And how can you identify who is draining your energy without you noticing? Because there are patterns happening around you and you need to see them? Not every approach is a connection. Some are just a way to unload, and most of the time that's not intentional malice, but it happens. There are people who only reach out to you when they're feeling bad, when they're confused, when they're in crisis. They come to you burdened, they talk and talk and talk, and then they leave feeling lighter, and you end up feeling strange, heavy, tired, drained of energy. And then you wonder, why do I feel this way? There was an exchange, but it wasn't balanced. I'm going to give you clear signs so you can start noticing this in your life. Pay attention. The person only shows up when they're feeling down, and you feel responsible for cheering them up. After the conversation, you feel exhausted. You think about her for hours or days, and you feel like you need to fix her life. If this happens often, it's not a coincidence. It's a pattern, and a pattern needs to be observed because what repeats itself is teaching you something. This is very serious, and it happens to a lot of sensitive people. Look at the cycle. The person comes to you feeling overwhelmed. You comfort them. They feel relieved. They come back. You comfort them again. They feel relieved again, and it goes on like that. But there's one detail. She gets better and you get worse. And even so, you keep making yourself available because you got used to being the support. But let me tell you something firmly now. You weren't born to be anyone's emotional dumping ground. Now comes an important part. This doesn't happen by chance. People who drain others look for those who are welcoming, who listen, who don't set boundaries, who have trouble saying no. And you're probably like that, not because you're weak, but because you're sensitive, and that's beautiful. But without protection, it becomes vulnerability. Being a safe harbor is beautiful, but when you become a harbor for everyone, you get overwhelmed. Because everyone comes, everyone unloads, everyone leaves something behind, and no one notices how heavy that gets. Because you don't show it, you endure it, you hold it in, you absorb it. But inside it keeps building up, and there comes a time when you just can't handle it anymore. Not everyone who comes to you wants to grow. Some people want comfort. They want someone to listen, to welcome them, to be there, but they don't want to change. And this creates a cycle because you help, but nothing changes. And you keep staying there, wearing yourself out for something that never depended on you. If you've ever helped someone who never changed, leave a like now, because this is more common than it seems. The biggest mistake is believing that you have to keep going, that you can't walk away, that you can't set limits, that you can't say no, but you can and you should. Because when you don't do that, you get stuck in unbalanced relationships where you give too much and end up feeling drained. I'm going to show you now a new way of positioning yourself that completely changes your energy. When someone comes to you with heavy energy, you don't have to reject it, but you also don't have to absorb it. You can listen with presence, but with boundaries. You can be there without getting completely involved. You can help without giving yourself away, and that is spiritual maturity. Keep this with you. Not every connection is light, not every closeness is healthy, and not every presence is meant to be kept. Now I'm going to give you the most important conclusion. How to protect your energy in your daily life, and how to keep being a light without dimming yourself, because you don't need to stop being who you are. You just need to learn to preserve yourself. Now, I want you to quiet yourself a little inside, because everything you've heard so far isn't just for reflection, it's for change. How do you protect your energy in your daily life? You don't need to distance yourself from the world. You don't need to stop helping. You don't need to close yourself off, but you do need to learn how to protect yourself. And I'm going to teach you something simple, but extremely powerful. Every time someone comes to you with pain, with burdens, with problems, before anything else, you observe yourself, you feel. And inside yourself, in silence, you affirm, I welcome, but I do not absorb. Repeat this, I welcome, but I do not absorb, because this creates an invisible boundary, and this boundary protects your energy. Now pay attention to this, because these are simple things, but they make a huge difference. Not every message needs to be answered right away. Not every problem needs your opinion. Not every pain needs your solution. Not every person needs your access. And when you understand this, you start to recover your energy. You start to breathe better. You start to live more lightly. I know that a part of you is afraid of change, afraid of seeming cold, afraid of distancing yourself. But let me tell you something with a lot of love. You don't need to stop being a light, you just need to stop burning yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, you keep helping, but with balance you keep being present, but with awareness you keep being love, but without abandoning yourself, you keep going. If this message truly touched you, share this video, because there are a lot of good people losing themselves trying to save everyone. If you liked it, now I'm going to tell you the hardest and most necessary part. Sometimes the most spiritual choice, it's not helping more, it's stepping back, it's giving space, it's allowing the other person to face their own process. Because there are battles that aren't yours. And when you insist on getting involved, you end up hurting yourself for no reason. You take care of everyone, but who takes care of you? You listen to everyone, but who listens to you? You support everyone, but who supports you? This question needs to reach you, because you also deserve peace. You also deserve lightness. You also deserve to live without carrying the world on your shoulders. If you made it this far, comment on this. I choose my peace. This is a spiritual stance, and I'm going to be very honest with you. Now, you have moments when just understanding isn't enough. You feel that it's heavy. You feel that you're drained. You feel that you can't get out of this pattern on your own. And in those moments, you need guidance. Someone who can see beyond, who understands your energy, who can guide you with clarity. And if this makes sense to you, down below, there are ways for you to seek this more deeply, but only if you feel like it. You need guidance from someone who can see beyond, who understands your energy, and guides you with clarity. And if that makes sense to you, down here there are paths for you to explore this more deeply, but only if you feel like it. Keep this with you. Você não nasceu para carregar o mundo. You were born to live what's yours, to take care of what's yours, to protect what's yours. And many times the most spiritual act there is this: helping without drowning, loving without losing yourself, and moving on without carrying what was never yours. If this video opened your mind, subscribe to the channel, because here you'll learn to live with awareness, spirituality, and protection. And remember, not everything that comes to you is meant to stay.